All right, well, welcome everyone to the Builders Call. This happens the first and third Tuesday of the month at 9 a.m. Every month. This is our cadence. So just to reset some context as we jump into today's call, the purpose of this call is for our larger organization within EXP, we branded Empire Builders Pro, to be able to come together. Anyone that's looking to build, grow, scale their organizations. Here's the truth. There are people that are in massive action, building and scaling. And there's people that are just getting started, and there's people that are just starting to build momentum. And there's people that have had momentum that maybe aren't experiencing the same momentum because their habits and behaviors may have shifted or changed. Bottom line is there's a wide spectrum of places that you could be, and we're all coming together here. And as we come together, we get the opportunity to grow together, to collaborate. There's a lot of great things that are happening. It's a place to get ideas, a place to get supported as you're going through possible challenges and obstacles on your road to growth. And the bottom line is that with this first and third of the week month cadence, it gives you the opportunity to log on and be the leader within your organization on the second and the fourth weeks, and to come together as part of a larger conversation and stay connected on the first and third week. So that's a little bit of the context of why we're here. We're going to start today's call with something pretty darn exciting. Wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, I'm going to encourage you to get really present and really quiet. For this part of the call as we jump in. We've actually got a couple of surprises for you today. Before we do that though, just by a show of hands, because I know I got to see some of you physically last week, some we passed in the hall, some we got one-on-one time with. By a show of hands, just if you were at EXPCon last week or any part of the event, go ahead and raise your hands real quick, please. We've got Liliana, Ralph, Leo, who else has got their hands up? Scott Marlowe, and some may still be reaching for it. I want to acknowledge those people that took time out of their days, their weeks, invested the time and invested the money and the energy to be at that event. One of my favorite mentors by the name of Matthew Ferry always says that we create an expectation for people of what they expect of us based on how they experience us. And so the more that we put ourselves in places to be experienced, to be seen, and to have those one-on-one experiences, we're creating our personal brand, which within a community of leaders like there are at EXP, it's a really important investment that you make in yourself, and one that you get back way more than anything that you would put out. That's my experience anyhow. All right, so to kick off this morning's call, there's a couple of things. I want you to start thinking in the back of your mind, maybe bring it front of mind before we jump into this next piece. If there was one thing for you that's going on right now, when you get this one thing sorted out, or you get to the other side of this one thing, it will be the thing where everything breaks loose and goes to the next level. What is that one thing? I remember specifically there was a coach that worked with me years ago, and I had, scarcity consciousness around money. And you wouldn't know it because from all outward appearances, it looked like everything was rocking and rolling. It was when I was selling real estate. This is actually back in 2006, 2007. And so to look in from the outside, it was like, man, my business, I've got a great business. I just bought a home, on 24-hour notice with no passport and no tickets. I got tickets to Italy. I got a same-day passport. I left and went on a trip for a week. Like anybody looking in from the outside would have thought that, everything was dialed in. However, this coach knew much better because he knew me more intimately. And he knew that I really had a scarcity consciousness going on in my psyche. And what he said to me, and the reason why he knew that was because I was experiencing anxiety at the thought of not having a trip that was planned to Europe and 48 hours later being in Europe. I was buying a house this year. I wasn't taking a trip to Europe this year. I was choosing one or the other versus choosing them both. How do I work out both things? And so he knew that deep in my way of thinking, there sat scarcity. And he said to me, that one thing that I'll never forget. He says, man, when you get that part dialed in, the world will be your oyster. When you get that part dialed in, when you get past this one thing that sits in your psychology, the world will be your oyster. Because with that mindset of scarcity, well, from the outside, I was creating amazing things.
It'd be funny to show our video.
Inside, it was a very different conversation, which meant there would always be a limit. There would always be a ceiling that I would not allow myself to go past or to go through. So as we jump into this first part of the call today, I want you to just get present with yourself and be asking yourself that question. What is the one thing that's going on for you right now that when you navigate to the other side of it, you'll be on the other side of it? It will be something that you've broken through that will no longer be acting or serving as a barrier. Because the truth is, through each layer of our evolution and our growth, we hit the next barrier. We hit that next one thing that when we get to the other side of that, it is the breakthrough that is going to lead us to that next area. And every single one of us has it. So as you're thinking about that, I want to, we're going to actually start this morning's call off with, I believe, I don't see anyone that is on this call right now that was a part of this conversation or caught it live. And so it's going to be special. One of the incredible things that happens at live events like the ones that we just came from at EXCon is the ability to share space and one-on-one time and hear conversations in a much more intimate space that you have not heard from stage, that you may not hear from stage, and conversations that maybe happen once. And then that was that moment in time, and that particular conversation happened and it was gone. And if you weren't there, you missed it. Well, we happened to be in a small group of people for a very important conversation that took place. And when I bring the video, I happen to have enough foresight. It's about 5 minutes long. However, I happen to have enough foresight as it got going. I was like, wait a minute. In all of the years that I've been with EXP and in all of the years that I've been around this man, I have never heard him say this or tell this story. And so I have a treat in that I caught the last 5 minutes of it, and I'm going to share it this morning on today's call. However, in this context, I want you to listen to his story. It's one of production for those of you that are still in production as agents, and it's one of recruiting and growth and building and scaling an organization for those of you that are really focused on that. And that is the context of the call today. So as you listen to his message, I want you to get really present and clear with that thing where you're at right now in your journey, in your growth. That is the thing that when you're on the other side of it, the world becomes your oyster to that next level. All right, you ready to go? And then we have another surprise and another special thing that will come after this. So give me one moment.
The coffee or the breakfast in the morning?
That is not going to. Now you guys know who it is. That's exciting. I just want to make sure we get the audio dialed in. Share sound, optimize for video clip. Here we go.
Fired me up for the rest of the day. So I'm so excited about you guys and what you could lead to. And I helped you and you helped yourselves. And I sponsored 5 people a month for 5 months, sponsored 25. Game over. Game over. It's the beginning, the middle, and the end. You're done. But you have to do 25 in 5 months. You cannot do 25 in 5 years. You can't do 5 a year, 5 a year. You create no momentum. This is built with momentum. You got to go bananas. You got to get radical. And I was like, focus. I am doing this. Like you got tomorrow. Why won't you do it tomorrow? A, you're afraid. B, you're lazy. C, you don't have a goal to do it. Zig Ziglar says you need to be a meaningful specific or a wandering generality. I'm telling you right now, 90% of the EXP agents are wandering generalities. And because my record was 7 home sales in a month. And I would go to the office, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna pull property, see if I can set up some appointments this weekend to show property, maybe try to get a listing. I gotta comp out a property on East Valley, and I'm gonna set up some open houses. It's all very wandering. It's all very nebulous. There's nothing focused there. What happened was, in my pain and my moment of frustration when every escrow I had went away, and it was July, I was going into July 4th weekend, I had nothing in escrow. I had 3 in escrow within 3 days. 1 didn't appraise, One, they couldn't do it because the loan went south, and the other one, the home inspection freaked out the buyer. It wasn't even that bad, but they freaked out and they were just looking for an excuse to get out. I had 3 in escrow going into the 4th of July. 3 days later, I had nothing. I had no way to pay bills. And if I can't really show property on the 4th of July, everyone's distracted. So if I did the next week, and then it was 40-day escrow back in those days, it was $19.99. You're toast, you're done. And I said, this is unacceptable. And I got pissed, I got frustrated, and frustration's a precursor to breakthrough. So what I did, I said, screw this. I became a meaningful specific. I become an absolute heat-seeking missile. And I said, I will show property every single day of the week. I got permission from my wife, not that I needed permission, but I said, baby, I gotta work 30 days straight. I go, this is unacceptable for me to borrow money from my brother again. I'm 34 years old. I should be borrowing money from my brother, but we're gonna borrow money from my brother. It's like no escrows. And so I show the property every single day. Sometimes I work so hard to do it, sometimes I show the property 2 or 3 times a day. My record was 7 escrows in a month. I usually sold 3 or 4 homes a month, 36 of, obviously I was just selling about 48 homes a year, 3 or 4 homes a month. My record was 7, which is a really good. How would you feel if you closed 7 homes in the last 30 days?
Yeah.
What would that do? What's the average commission around these places? 15 grand or something? Yeah. Times 7, do the math. It's over $100,000 you'd have right now. And I'm like, God, I hope I get back to 7. I'll never know. Because I started showing property every day, became a meaningful specific. I put 14 homes in escrow. I doubled my all-time goal. I made $160,000 in a month. It just I'll never be the same. And so I hope you're frustrated. I hope you're pissed off. I hope you get on the struggle bus. I hope you harness the wind, whatever it is that motivates you. And I hope you do this. I said I want to become a listing agent. So I said, I'm going on listing appointments every day. I became a meaningful specific. Guess what? I was on listing appointments every day. How do you get so much to call you? How do you do this? It took me 2 years. I'm like crazy. I watch podcasts, YouTube, go to Remax, go to Keller Williams, go to Craig Proctor, go to Brian Buffini, Joe Stump, Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, wherever. Do you know how to do it? Tell me how to do it. I was like a raving freaking lunatic, but guess what? 2 years later, I had 18 to 28 listings at all times. I would go to Carmel, Monterey, Palm Springs, Las Vegas, play all weekend, come back and sell 5 homes. Because you have 18 to 28 listings, that buyer's agents, where I used to be one who would spend my whole weekend showing property when I should have been hanging with my family. Recording in progress. And once I did that, okay, life's good, but I'm on a treadmill. I sell 60 listings every year was what I did, and then I give the rest to my listing specialist. And I'm making good money, but we weren't getting rich. We were netting $500 to $1 million a year, but when you have 5 kids and a nice home in the suburbs and nice cars in Maui and the Caribbean and private schools, you eat up $500 to $1 million really easy. We were not getting rich. We were buying real estate, we were investing, but we just weren't there. And so I used that same concept when I got in EXP. And my first 5 months, I only did it, it's short-term pain. Every single day, I press play. And again, there's 3 reasons you won't do it. Number 1, you're lazy. Number 2, you're afraid. Number 3, you didn't have a goal to do it. It's like, I ain't lazy, I ain't afraid, but he's right. I was a deeply freaking committed professional. Show up, they do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. Teenagers, I don't feel like it. Stop teenaging and start adulting. Suck it up. Do it. Your life can be so different in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months. Radically different if you'll get focused again. A meaningful specific versus wandering generality. Go get meaningful. Love you guys. Love you.
All right. So a little message from Brent Gove. Would love to hear your takeaways on that message. What resonated with you?
Meaningful and specific.
Short-term pain.
Hi, Josh.
What else?
He knew he deserved
gotta-
better, but he knew he needed to do better. And so he did.
You got to do the work.
You have to have the goal. It was 5, 5, and 5 for 5 months.
And for those of you that know Brent Gove, can you imagine him borrowing money from his brother because he didn't have money to pay his bill? Like for that person that you experienced today, it's almost impossible to fathom that. It's not the same person. And yet it is. Great. What else?
You have to be super intentional.
Super intentional. Great. What else?
I love that. I love that he grew and he gained so much passion of the fact that he borrowed the money, and that really he turned the energy around, and rather than feeling depressed about it, he actually did something about it that lasted. It is still lasting till now.
Yep. He drew a line in the sand. He decided death to all other options. 7 escrows in a month is no longer an option. I'm going to 18 to 20 listings at all times. I'm going to go away for the weekend. I'm going to come back and have 5 in contract because I've got leverage in my business and never go back to that point. Great. What else?
What struck me was his energy and enthusiasm. I mean, I think if you had that type of energy with whatever you did, whether it was recruiting or sales or golf or finding someone to date or whatever, you're gonna be successful. You can just tell how he's like pumping his hands and like I'm like, man, I should do that more with everything I do in my life.
How many kids do you have, Scott?
0.
Maybe 5 kids would help that.
No thanks.
5 little mouths to feed at home going, where's dinner coming from? Great. What else?
The one thing I'll say is like that it was a moment of decision that his entire life changed, you know, because he went from borrowing the money and basically saying like, this is not like, I'm not doing this anymore, right? So he basically had to die to the previous version of himself. And he basically said, hey, I'm going to be an adult and I'm going to take full responsibility for my life and I'm going to be moving forward powerfully. So I just think that the one takeaway is that your life can change in a second, right? Because that's exactly what happened. Like his life changed in that 1 second when he decided that he was going to not tolerate that previous lifestyle. And, you know, he wanted to move forward in the new brand that we know today, right? The desperate, the hungry, the energetic one that we all know. And I think that we all have that within us. It's just a matter of, again, deciding, right? Deciding. And I don't think we have to wait for a massive amount of pain. I think that a lot of us have to like, we like, oh my God, I have to be, you know, put in a corner. And I'm guilty of this as well, right? Like I'm not saying only, but at times I take action only when it's like, I have to do it, right? So I just think that if, you know, just something to take away is like, let's make an adult decision. And this second we decide that we're going all in and we're really being the difference and, you know, just kind of put all the excuses to the side because they really are irrelevant.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that. One specific thing about that is that, you know, people are motivated by pain or motivated by pleasure. I think there's a third thing that people are motivated by, and it's inspiration. So the scarcity part of the brain, the survival part of the brain waits till and procrastinates till and creates all the drama around, I have to do this right now. And when things become so dire and so desperate, that survival part of the brain, that scarcity brain kicks in. And then you go out and you create things that are unbelievable. Like Brent talked about it in his story, where he went and for 30 days, he told his wife, like every day, here's what I'm going to be doing every day. That was that survival scarcity. I have to do something part of the brain that kicked him into action. And then that, because we've all done that, we get that dopamine where we feel like Superman because we just escaped a near death situation because we pulled ourselves out of at the last and everything was and our life was on the line. And then we get like some great results, and our addiction to that scarcity survival part of the brain, we know what to do, we know the activities that just got us there, and we stop doing those because now we've got the dopamine hit in the form of some commissions, we've got some cash in the bank. And so we take our eye off the ball, we stop the daily habits and the focus that we might have had at one time, or better yet, I'm going to diversify and put my hands in 3 other pots of things where I can create a new business over here, a new project over here. And all of a sudden I take my focus and dilute it because I'm spreading it across multiple things and I have a great story behind it. Well, this connects to this and they're all kind of related. So I'm diversifying and I'm building multiple pillars. Well, that is really interesting until none of the pillars are actually really growing and creating anything significant. And so it can be this thing that we get into, right? Where like, I'm guilty of it as well. I've done it too, right? And now I find myself in this place where I'm like, oh, shoot. Like when it hits the fan, I know that I can produce results and I will go do it. Yet that is operating from that place of survival, which is actually a place of scarcity versus a lot of people aren't really motivated by pleasure and will create anything big based on pleasure. There's a third place to create from, and that's one of inspiration based on connection to a vision and a belief, a fundamental belief that you choose to take on inside. A, that you're worthy and you deserve whatever it is that you set your mind out to create. And B, that you have a responsibility with that to know that you're going to touch and impact people and create a space for people's lives to improve along the way as you do that, right? So every day we get to wake up and go, man, am I going to create from a place of survival and scarcity? Or am I going to create from a place of inspiration and a connection to something bigger? Something that, like Brent said, one thing that he kept saying over and over and over again is he said, you know, you're going to be teenagering or you're going to be adulting, right? Teenagering is when I feel like it, when it's convenient. Oh, my homework's due. I got a paper due. I'm going to stay up all night and get it done and slide in, right? And that's how he was with his real estate business. And that's how some of you are with building and scaling an organization, right? Like, oh, shoot, I'm about to hit one of those terrible numbers that is a multiple of 5 because I'm going backwards. And as I hit that multiple of 5, that level of revenue share is going to go away. Why is that happening? Why is that happening? Right. And every time doesn't have anything to do with the people that have come into your organization. It has to do with the person that's looking back at you in the mirror. So there is somebody that I know, well, I think a lot of you on this call actually really love, and I'm going to bring him on the call. I live in the same house with him. There's the tip off. I think everybody on here has met him. And I said to him this morning when we were out on our walk, I said, hey, can you be on our builders call today at 9 a.m.? And he said, sure. And so I've got him on the call today. He did a couple of really specific things, and I want to have the opportunity for you to hear from him for a couple of minutes because he is mostly not on this call, and today he is joining us on this call. And as we do that, I have been looking feverishly for how to the damn chimes as people are coming in, and
it's under participants and then more.
It's under more. I want to like poke myself in the eye. Play, join, and leave sound. There we go. Oh, ask for help.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you.
Ask sooner and spare everyone else that's on the call. So there is we're going to talk about one really key recruiting and attracting strategy today. He has the opportunity. However, I want to bring him on to the call today because I know the convention EXPCon was pivotal for him in this context of building and scaling. And so I want him to share his thoughts because let's be honest, he's almost 43 years in the industry. He has developed the skill sets around connecting with people and relationships. And he has an appointment that he has pushed back a little bit to be on this call today. Thank you for doing that, Rick. I know everyone, including myself, is excited to hear from you. You had some pretty powerful breakthroughs at this event. And I think things that everyone that's on here today can benefit from, regardless of where they're at in their journey.
That's nice of you, honey. What I actually said when you said, do you want to be on the call was why? Yeah, I think that first and foremost, it's great to see you all. And I love that there's this many people on the call and that it's recorded and more people will watch it. I got to see a lot of you in person at EXPCon. It was really an incredible event for me because I set the context thanks to Casey and I talking on the plane. She said, what was your context? She does that often when we're going to an event. What's the context you hope to walk away with, or that you're going into the event with? And I felt like it had to be simplicity, that there was a simple answer to why I kept hitting a wall with my personal recruiting. When I'm on 3-ways for everybody, I'm killing it. Like, I know that's me bragging about myself, but I really feel like on 3-ways, I'm killing it. I get really good feedback. The people join. Casey used to say this about her new skin business, man, bring me people and I'll convert them, right? All day long. But that's not our business. Our business isn't just having people bring, we've got to go get people. And what happens in my team, my organization, if you will, and my real estate team, if I am not lead generating, somehow energetically, my real estate team gets that I'm not lead generating. I don't know how they do it. They don't see me, they're not with me, but energetically it starts to spread. When I start lead generating like a crazy person, guess what? Magically, energetically, my team starts doing it. And it's the same thing in agent attraction. And I'm noticing it. Like, I'm watching the EXP leadership group on Facebook, and I'm doing all these different things. And I even texted my buddy, James Stroop, during it. And I never heard back from him. I said, James, I need to talk to you for 15 minutes. I feel like I'm hitting a wall on personal recruiting. James never responded. And it's okay. I mean, he must have been getting hundreds or maybe thousands of texts while we were there. Can I see Brent? Can I see Brent? But what I did was listening to Brent twice, right? Once for 30 minutes, once for those 5 minutes that Casey, I just realized I just got to go back to the simple basics of finding time. And I love that Casey talked about a little bit, all the different things we're doing and what's really getting your focus and what's really most important, right? And I realize that for me to have the life I want to live, that the most important thing, more than anything,
Yeah,
to
just for
spend
me, the
time,
seller and the agent.
is to spend time.
Reveal what you're doing in the background when you're not on video.
Is to spend time just making those calls. And it's already working. Like today, I have 2 face-to-face appointments. One was supposed to be a call with a friend in Stockton, not a friend, but like a past person I used to recruit to my Keller Williams office there. And she tried to move it later. And she said, I got to move it later because I'm driving home from Pebble Beach. I go, I'm 5 minutes from Pebble Beach. Maybe we meet in person. So now I'm rushing off to meet her, and I'm already noticing my intention has changed. My intention has changed. Once you change that intention, look, I'm not schooling you guys. We're all in this together. We're all learning together to be better at what it is that will lead us to the freedom we're looking for. Would you all agree with that? I mean, that's all we want. We want more freedom. And we don't get on these calls because we've got nothing to do. We get on these calls because we want to be moved forward. And I go to EXPCon and Shareholder Summit and everything Brent does so that I can be moved forward in the direction of 1.4 million a month, right? So when I know that it's possible and others have done it, then I keep saying, why couldn't I do it? All I got to do is model after him. Tony Robbins says that. One of his oldest quotes that I remember from many years ago was, people who succeed in life are simply professional modelers. They model themselves after those who have come before them and done it well, right? So why aren't we all doing that? And we are. That's why you're on this group, because you are doing it. You just want to do more of it. And that's my takeaway, guys. I'm just getting back to work. And I got to tell you, Casey and I are going through a period in our lives where there's a lot of things. Like, she named off a bunch of stuff, healthcare phone calls, making sure that bills are being paid out of the right accounts. We're trying to make everything perfect in our life, or everything operationally excellent. And those things can seem more important in the moment. Like, I got to get that done. I got to get that done. Both Casey and I now always have a booklet. Even though we can take notes on notes, we always have a booklet literally sitting right next to our computer, so that we're making sure that the tangible points, the points that have most interest, no matter what it is we're doing. And I can see I was gone teaching yesterday that she took notes in my book. It was great. So I was like seeing what was going on during the day. Guys, look at your schedule, make it the most possible. And I like to say, look, I have to be better at my schedule because there's thousands of people who have access to my Calendly link. So I got to find my personal recruiting time and make sure I block it off so that nobody can take it away from me by linking on my Calendly link and taking 30 minutes from me. Do you get that? So I'm changing in the moment. We got back Saturday night. I literally was making calls Saturday while we were on the road. On Sunday, I started dialing again. Things are happening already. Like Sunday in the airport on Saturday at the Vegas airport, I called a prospect, was on the phone with her for a while, resent her the model explained. I've been sending to her 4 times over 2 years. Now all of a sudden I got to watch that. Could you resend it? Like she lied basically, because a year and a half ago she said she watched it, but she didn't. Because that's why she said, send it again. I don't know that I ever watched it. That's the kind of stuff that can happen when you set your intention right and start moving in the direction. I'm no different than any of you. I'm no better. I'm no worse. I'm just another guy on the same journey. I just happen to have been around the journey a lot longer. So let's go kill it together, guys, and make a difference.
And you know the secret to having her watch it, right?
What was that? Yeah, do it. Get on the phone with her and do it. That's even harder with that lady. So
fun times. Well, thank you for being on with us. For those of you that are on the call, there is a chat box below, and I'm going to share one thing. If you have something specific that a topic or something that you're navigating through to the other side and you want to bring up on the call today to get some feedback from your peers in your community, please go ahead and put that in the chat below. You can also let yourself off mute. I'm going to share one thing that if you choose to use it today can be a game changer. One thing that you focus on every day. I'm going to take you back to 2007. It was November 2007. It was the end of November, and I had been, I was in not a great spot financially. I had about $90,000 in credit card debt. My fixed expenses were about 10 grand each month. I had 6 deals in escrow that subsequently none of them closed. And so it was, it was a really stressful time in my real estate career. And it was also a time where I got introduced to an industry that in the direct selling industry, that was a way that I could make money like right now. And the reason why I'm sharing this story with you is because there's one thing that I learned in that industry that I learned and mastered at a really high level, that if you're willing to master that one thing here, there will be no limit as to what you can build, and more importantly, how fast you can scale and grow it. And so it's something that you all already know. It's a third-party validation call, and the value of having other people that you're in business with talk to your people. However, I'm sharing this story with you today so that in a micro story, you can understand the value and the power of it, actually. And so I didn't know anything about the business. I didn't know that it would work or believe that it would work. Really, it was like, well, what do I have to lose? Nothing. And I don't know how I'm going to literally keep my lights on, the energy bill paid, and food in my mouth, because I had run out of all of the credit on my credit cards. So I was very coachable, and every single conversation that I had, I involved somebody that was coaching and mentoring me. What that ended up was, 60 days later, when I cut my first, official check, that was significant, it was close to $7,000. And that was, in my second month, which if you've been in that industry, that is really great money in a really short period of time. In my third month, I went from 7,000 down to 2,800. And I'll never forget that month, because I got a call from one of my mentors, and he said, "How's it going?" And I was like, "Oh, it's going all right. It's going good." And I didn't realize, or wasn't putting 2 and 2 together, that as he looked into his back office, he could see everything that was going on with my business as it related to the numbers and the, what was happening in the sales organization at that time. And he's like, well, talk to me. What's working? What's working really well? What could be improved? We're having this conversation. And he said, your business looks a little bit different this month than it did last month. If there was one thing that's changed, what's the one thing that's changed? And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it. And I said, well, gosh, I don't see how this could be, that big of a deal. But the one thing that's changed is I'm not using you now. I don't need you. Like, I was on so many calls in my first 60 days and had you and, other my business partners that I was rotating around, putting people on calls with, like I basically learned there was like 9 questions that people were going to ask. And I learned how to answer every single one of those questions really well. And instead of inconveniencing you and reaching out to pull time away on your schedule and away from helping other people, I'm just helping myself. Like I know how to have these conversations with people. And so I'm doing it. Like that's what leaders do, right? And he goes, well, how's that working for you? And I'll never forget that moment. It was a defining moment because what I realized was I took another look at some of the conversations I was having and what I was hearing from people. And while I was in a position to have those conversations and answer those questions for my own people that I was working on, I remembered some of those conversations were like, oh, well, of course you're going to be successful. Look at you. Like, and what they were seeing was a posture and a confidence and a base of knowledge and an ability to explain things and ability to answer questions that they perceived they could not have or did not have, and therefore could not or would not be successful. And it was at that moment in time that I really learned the value of a third-party validation call, other voice outside of my own, even when I knew the conversation to have. This came from our business right before we shot through the roof with Rick, because Rick has been recruiting for years and building offices for years. And he was a place where he was hitting a wall. This was like 3 years ago. And I said, you know, when's the last time you had one of your people on a call with Brent? He's like, I don't need to get him on a call with Brent. I can talk to him myself. Okay. Okay. Right. And then he decided to change that. And, you know, Brent all along is like, dude, use me, dude, put me on the phone with your people, man. Who are we going to talk to? Who are you going to put me in front of? And Rick's like, I got it. I know how to recruit people. I know how to talk to people. It's all good. Right. The reason why I'm sharing this story is that it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how much influence you have. You will not be the most effective person with your people. Period. You'll be the door opener, and you may be the one that is the integrator with them and that walks with them on their journey, but it is going to be a voice outside of yours, more than likely, that is going to be the influence that validates and that connects the dots and that creates the feeling, the emotion that has someone move forward. So I can look at my schedule right now. There's one person on this call that has me set up for a 3-way call this week.
Can you repeat that sentence, please?
I have no idea what I just said.
You said it's going to be a voice outside yours that.
Oh, that's gonna create some influence that actually moves a person.
Okay.
Right.
And connects the dots.
Yeah, if I'm the person having conversations with my prospect and I'm the one that's having the conversation all the time, it starts to sound like this. Doesn't matter how good it is that what I'm saying, doesn't matter how amazing it is. What it starts to sound like in the ears of my personal prospects is pretty annoying, right? That's the most annoying noise that I could come up with in the moment, right? And it's, if somebody's not moving right now, it's not necessarily because the timing's not right. It's because there's a piece that's missing. And sometimes we think, you know, I love the leadership of self and that we're going to, you know, be the person to have the conversation and we're just going to have some more conversations. However, the third-party validation call is the most powerful tool, period. And it can be as simple as whatever it is that you're looking to move forward in your business. There's someone I think you should meet. Let me see if they're willing to give you 15 to 20 minutes of their time. That's it. And that's what you should meet. Let me see if they're willing to give you 15 to 20 minutes of their time. And what I would dare to say is that if you look at your calendar, all of you, including leaders that are on this call, that are every day working, going out there, working, growing, and building, how many 3-way calls do you have set up right now on your calendar this week? Right now, today, from how many different people in your organization, and what that 3-way call schedule looks like? It will directly reflect the level that you're growing and that you're scaling. So if there is one thing to do when you leave the call today, It is who am I going to connect and who am I going to connect them with?
So really quickly, so what if they refuse that call? Then what? Because I've been running into that. So it's like, okay, now I have this hurdle. How do I bring up this energy again so that they're more willing?
That is a great question, Liliana. I'm so glad that you asked it. And I'm going to save how I would respond to that. And I'm going to save that for the last piece. I would love to hear from some of the other people that are experienced on this call, that based on your experience, how you would answer that question.
So I'll just chime in. I think that there's two things I want to mention really quickly. Hi, Rosie.
I don't want you to eat a lot if your belly hurts, but you can have some toast or something.
Oh my God.
Bellyache. Okay. So one thing I wanted to say is that if you're having, if you're struggling with getting them to agree to a second call, it might be just in the way that you're presenting, because maybe you're talking about, look, let me have you talk to someone who's really good with EXP. They can introduce the model. They're really, they can really break this whole thing down for you, And so you're still having the EXP conversation. So as opposed to, I've had just a wonderful experience, or someone I'd like for you to meet and know, this is one of the most, the savviest businesswomen I know. And right now it sounds like you're working on, how to scale your business. It sounds like you're working on what's the next step for you. It sounds like you're working on how to structure your team, whatever they're working on, right? Or whatever your goals are. And so it would be a very valuable conversation to have with one of my business partners. She's a national known speaker. She has scaled many, many businesses, and she consults privately. It would be a really valuable conversation simply about you and your business, and an opportunity for you to meet one of my partners. Can we have that conversation? So if you can identify what they're working on, and you could connect them to Casey Council, to Rosie Rodriguez, to Leo Robles, to Rick Jiha, you have such a powerful group of individuals that can help them with their business, that if you make the conversation about them and their business as opposed to the EXP conversation, it might just give just open the door to that next conversation. So I wanted to say that. And then rewind, the other thing I wanted to say is that it's really important, let's say you've already explained this is how the model works, you showed them the video, you've done a breakdown for them. It's important that you've done a little bit of that before the third party call. And the reason I say that is because you don't want to have a conversation where you're like, yeah, you know what? I'll let you talk to someone who's going to tell you all about EXP. And then you move them over to Casey or to Rick. And we're kind of starting from scratch because, Casey, this is my opinion. You can kind of chime in, but wouldn't it be then where you're doing the selling? Like the third party conversation is not, the purpose of that is not to come in and directly do the sell. It's more from, from like an overview, answer questions. So maybe you can answer, that comment or respond to that comment, Casey.
Yeah, so I will respond to that in this way. There was somebody that was somebody that had a guest at EXPCon that said, hey, that was towards the end of the event. And they came up to me and they said that, from everything they've seen and experienced, I think they're, ready to go, but will you, have a conversation with them about, walking them into next steps and pulling the trigger? And I was like, sure. So we sat down to have the conversation, and this person was like, well, tell me what you think I should do. And I said, I have no idea. Like, I'm not the person to answer that question. However, tell me a little bit about, why you're here, which they did, and what you saw that has you even interested in moving this direction, which they did, and what you're looking for. And what this person was looking for was they wanted to take their real estate business from this to this and have 10 other people that they did that with. And they saw that this community of leaders in real estate was going to be able to help them do that. And I said, great. So, fast forward, that's all done. You've done that in your business. Why? What's different? And it took them to the end of the movie, the end of the story, right? And the person said, well, I'll have financial freedom. And I said, great. How do you define that? Well, I don't know. Well, that would be important for you to get clear on before you make any kind of move. And they kind of looked at me sideways. Like, I thought this conversation was about you telling me how I can move over to EXP. And I intentionally took that conversation 2 steps backwards and just said, man, if you don't have the end of the movie and you're not able to describe when we do all that stuff with you, which we will, what that is, you're going to get to that place and you're going to be really disappointed. And then we're going to be having a conversation about if this is a place for you to be and what's next. And I'm not going to set you up to fail like that. So let's get clear on, okay, you want to do this set of things because you think it means financial freedom. Let's get clear on what that freedom, what that freedom actually means for you. Those kind of conversations are really important, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to speak to taking the real estate business like this or working with this person to help 10 other people do the same thing. I'm going to speak to the picture once that person's clear on the picture of why and what that's all going to mean. So to answer your question, Liliana, if somebody doesn't want to get on a call with someone else, it's 100% about the setup of how that opportunity has been introduced, right? So everyone's looking for something in their life, in their business, everyone. And if I know the person, if you know the person or the thing that is going to connect me to what I'm looking to get more of, better, or different in my life, wild horses cannot keep me from that conversation. Period. Right? So the setup is not get on a call with my business partner from my perspective. The setup is, oh, Liliana, you're looking to take your business from here to here, and you want 10 other people that you can mentor and do the same thing with. There's somebody that you have got to meet because they're going to be pivotal in your journey in actually creating that. If I can get 15 to 20 minutes with them, would that be worth it for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Versus, hey, I have this business partner that's amazing. And we've been working together at EXP for the last 3 years, and they've helped so many people scale their businesses. And they're just an incredible pillar in our community of leaders. And I would love for you to talk to them.
I'd go with the first option.
You go with the first option, right? The first option is about you. The second option is about EXP.
So at what point do you drop the model explain video though? Because usually I drop it in between transition, so that's the part that's kind of like.
You mean drop it like what Rick did, send it 4 times and they still haven't watched it, or have a time where you're going to go with them?
Yeah, because obviously when they get to you guys, I kind of want them to know a little bit about the model, so that you guys can answer any questions. But obviously I also want it to be organic and to come from a place of value. So it's a little convoluted in my head as far as the process.
Yeah, who would like to comment on that? And then I'll save my comments for next.
I would. So how I approach it, and I schedule a lot of calls with Casey and Rick, and how I approach it is I value their time at $750 to $1,000 an hour. So I want to make that call as valuable as possible. So if we're going to have that call, I make sure that I went through step 1, 2, and 3 with that person before we even get to them.
Love that. Thank you, Will. Who else would like to chime in? Leo.
Yeah, so basically, I would definitely, when the appointment, and I think a lot of us do it backwards, right? And I did it backwards in the beginning too. I would set up I would send them the model explained, and then you got to chase people down, right? So I would book the appointment. That's step number 1, book the appointment with either with yourself or with the person that's validating you on the conversation and the prospect. And then I tell them, hey, by the way, I'm sending you over a benefits webinar. That's the most up to date. I would love for you to check this out. That way you come prepared to the meeting, right? So I set up the appointment first. I send the model explained second. That's worked really well from my perspective. And 3-way calls for me has been one of the strongest things that I've done in recruiting. I love the 3-way calls. my rule of thumb is that if they're not submitting an application by the end of the conversation, they have to be with someone else in the conversation. Like you have to set up the next appointment right away. And like what Casey mentioned, you have to make it all about the prospect and why it's a benefit for them to be on the call. Not why it's a benefit for them to meet this extraordinary person, because they're not going to be inspired by that. And I would say that if you're having a challenge also setting up three-way calls, is because you're not listening to the prospect in the recruiting meeting as well. Your objective in the recruiting meeting is to 100% listen to the prospect and figure out what's most important to them, where they want to go, what are their pain points. And from there, you're going to have all of the juice to set up the next conversation. It's going to be really easy, like super simple, because you have all of the juice to be able to set up the next conversation, right? I literally just did one with Cindy. The gal said, no, I'm not interested. Like, I think I got all my questions answered. Okay, great. And I literally went on for another 15 minutes in the conversation, was able to extract a couple of more bits and pieces of information. And then now I have a call with Rick, right? And the prospect as well. So I don't leave an appointment without the next appointment or an action step. It has to be done right away. So that's what I would say.
Cindy.
Love that. Anyone else want to comment on that?
Yeah. Would you mind? This is Decatur. Hi.
Sure.
Hey.
Please come on video. I mean, that picture is adorable. However,
I know I can. I'm at another. It's a long story. We'll discuss it later. But yeah, I'm not at a strip club or anything like that. But I'm someplace that So yeah, something like that. Anyway, so what works for me, and I'm kind of aligned with Rosie, but she's my spirit animal. The humility and edification, like being really vulnerable in who you are as a leader and edifying the next leader, right? I think so many times that we don't build these connections with the other leaders around us, and we don't collaborate. So we don't know really who we're introducing. We just know that there's a brilliant Joseph Trujillo out there, and he's great and he sells a lot of homes. But if we break it down into, something that's a little bit more genuine in who they're talking to next, could really, I think bridge the gaps and keeps that energy really consistent with who you are in that conversation. So the connection with other leaders to know their actual superpower and their strengths, I think is really, really important, to move the needle, right, with other individuals that you're trying to recruit. In the midst of that, in the interim of all that, that's when I usually, hey, we're gonna meet with such, and that's when I kind of bring in like during the text, telling them how great that they are and how much I enjoyed speaking with them. That's when I'll introduce like the EXP explain, hey, check this out, tell me what you think next time, next time we talk. Or I'll call them back, at some time during the day, but it's during the interim. But I think that just keeping that energy going, showing genuineness, making sure that you edify the next individual, and actually knowing what you're speaking of, within that individual, I think is massive. It's very, very important.
Thank you for that, Decatur. Okay, so Liliana, did you get clearer?
Yeah, I got massive value. Thank you.
You are welcome. You're welcome. Great question. And it's the ability really to bring different things into the conversation and hear different perspectives of people. And at the end of the day, I heard someone say, oh, nobody wants to be gotten. Oh, I got another one, right? Nobody wants to be gotten. Like, I don't want to be gotten. I don't want someone to say about me, oh, I got Casey, right? I have a lot of resistance around that. I'll be like, oh, no way. No, you don't. And that's just the little spicy, part of me that like, I'm the boss of me. Nobody's getting me. If I'm doing something, I'm doing something because I'm doing it, right? And so here's what I'll say is that when things become fun, when it becomes like not a game in the sense of that it's casual because we're talking about people's lives here. However, when it becomes fun, when I sat down in that conversation at the end of EXPCon with a group of people, and one of them said, hey, I want you to talk to my guest that's here because they're ready to come on board and for next steps. And we didn't talk about coming on board with EXP at all. That to me is fun. What happened at the end of that conversation is Brent came in the room, and the video that we saw at the beginning of this call is what happened. And what it did is the conversation that I had with that prospect created a vacuum for them where they came back to me after Brent spoke and said, okay, but how do I get, what am I doing with EXP? Like, what are my next steps to do that? Right? Because I backed up and took EXP off the table and really made it about them and not about EXP at all. And to me, it's fun. Like, I go into every conversation like, great, what am I going to get to learn about this person? How am I going to position in a way that it creates a vacuum of pull energy in that conversation, and that whoever's put them in front of me, I'm supporting them and helping them grow and build so that it's a win for them, right? The person that brought me that prospect sat there and took notes on the conversation, because they were wanting to learn and to model what to do when people bring them people to talk to, and they're the person that's doing the validation on the third party validation side, like moving someone through. So I think that's the most fun part of our business is, man, I'm sitting there, I'm listening, I'm learning from Brent, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, am I lazy? Am I scared? Did I not make it a goal? I'm asking myself those 3 questions in every area of my life right now. Right? Am I lazy? Am I scared? Did I not make it a goal? 3 great questions. I'm asking that about my routines around my physical workouts, around my nutrition. Am I lazy? Am I scared? Did I not make it a goal? Right? I picked that up from being in a room and listening. And in that same room, I was a contribution to someone else that had a prospect there. So it's this constant like working together, right? If there's anything that I can emphasize, it's like how we work together and how we learn from each other and how we become better as a result of that. So I'm gonna leave you with one thing today as we wrap up the call. There are life/business planning clinics that are happening over the course of the next several weeks. The first one in the series of 5 started off yesterday. It was in Monterey. Michelle Russell was the host. Want to acknowledge Michelle. Of the group of people that got to the event, which was the first event that Rick's done in this area, 10%, which is a pretty amazing number, out of the blue, pull energy was created, and they want to talk about EXP, and we're having those meetings today. That happened. So there are business life planning clinics that are coming up. They are 5 hours long. It is not what you've experienced before. It is not the 90 minutes that Rick did last year on how to create a business plan. It is leave with your 2023 plan dialed in. So there's one in Chico, there's one in Rancho Cucamonga, there's one in Irvine, and there's one in San Ramon. Where will you find those? You'll find those on empirebuilders.pro/resources, all the live classes, the live Eventbrite links. Your conversations can be as simple as, Will, do you have a 2023 business plan dialed in? No, I don't have one of those dialed in yet. Oh my gosh, be my guest. Join me on this date. It's going to be unbelievable. And then you can go back to Century 21 and rock it in 2023. And what if you had 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 guests with you at one of those upcoming business planning clinics? What can happen on the other end of that as a result of you being the person that proactively reaches out, extends a hand to someone else in support of their career, their life, their dreams, and no attachment on what company they're with, simply to be a colleague that invites them to participate at that level and enjoy value. Every single person that's on this call has that opportunity right now. I'm going to pull up exactly so that you've got a visual and can see where to go, because I know that a lot of times people are visual. So share the screen. Here we go. Empire Builders Pro. If you go under the resources tab and click live training schedule, and you scroll down, upcoming live training events, there, all of the events are sitting right there. That is where you'll find them. Those are the dates. And once the registrations are full, they will sell out. These are being set up a little bit differently, just so you know. There's a charge for these. They're not free. The workbooks are $14. People are leaving with a full color, single-sided, 41-page spiral bound covered workbook that they can work with throughout their entire 2023. There's sponsors that are sponsoring these events. There's going to be panels of agents from other companies in the industry, so that it is truly a company agnostic event to get people in a room together. When you get people in a room and have an experience, amazing things happen. So we're looking forward to seeing you at one or multiples of those events. I know the next one that's coming up, Erica and Chico, there she is hosting that one. And the recording for this call will be up and posted on Empire Builders Pro under the Facebook group. Thank you all for your contribution today, for being here. We love each and every one of you, and upward and onward. May you all have packed calendars of three-way calls this week. And I say that for myself as well. Rock on, everybody.
Thank you. You're
Thank
awesome.
you.